this time. Some of these is to have in some of the health infrastructure in the country and for human capital enhancement. This is also confirming to the fact that if it's been confirmed, it will be that a total of 3.995 billion have been borrowed from the World Bank just this year. And the statistics are quite very varying because of the fact that many Nigerians are asking the question, what is happening within the infrastructure, what is happening within the human capacity development, what is happening to our health situation and all of that. And that's the reason we'll be having interactions about the current hardship faced by many Nigerians and for the statistics of how much the country is borrowing year in, year out. And for the fact that the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has gone ahead of time in getting securing some of these loans for infrastructure. So we're trying to track how far with all of these borrowing, what's happening to a refinery, and for the other end of the NNPC, yet to have a resolving pricing agreement with Dangote. One of the questions that we must begin to understand better on what is happening in the country. My guest is Statesman and Dr. Bartolome. Thanks so much for joining us on the program, Doctor.
You're welcome.
A bit of confusion in the country of recent about Dangote refinery, NNPC, and just now we've seen how government is making a move to, borrow more. First, let me get your reactions about the many loans we are having from the World Bank, because year in, year out, we have statistics of much of this loan. And the question Nigerians will ask, where can we say that all of this borrowing is going to? Because looking at the infrastructure of things in the health sector and all of that, we can track some of this development. Do you feel that this new move by the federal government will make any difference?
It will not make any difference. Our problem is this in this country. It's not money. It's human resources. Quality of human beings to manage resources. That is the problem we have. If they are going to borrow more money, the simple understanding we have is that they are trying to make more money available in the system so that they can cut away. But my own appeal to those in governance is, let them show us mercy. The ones they have cutted away, let them go with it. Let them go with them. And let people that are patriotic come into the system. Give us 5 years. Nigeria will revamp back. If there is no more stealing, if there is no more cutting away. So, Mr. Mike, my own take on that matter is I don't see any good development arising from that side. I don't see any good development arising from that side. Borrowing from the international community has never done anybody good. By the moment you go there, you go to the IMF to get money, you don't just get it free. There are some things attached to it. You will become a slave to them. You can no longer make...
The regulation of IMF are not working for the country, because we've seen some of them advising government economic policies and all of that.
By the moment you get into their hook, they will begin to interject with what you are doing. We know this of late, and it does not benefit us. My own prayer and what I appeal to those in governance, let them leave us alone. Let them be patriotic for once. Our problem is not money. There's a lot of money in this country, a lot of resources here. What we lack is people with honest spirit, the people that are patriotic.
All right. It worries some because when you look at the fact that one of the economic indices of hardship in the country right now is the issues of NNPC, issues of Dangote refineries and all of that. So the question many Nigerians probably may be asking is about what is happening to a refinery first. is it not embarrassing that NNPC is having to become the marketers, the distributors, or the sellers of our Dangote product? What happens to our own refinery where many Nigerians are beginning to ask? Because if we now have a government refinery, probably the prices would have been different from what we're having now.
Yes, of course. What I have been saying is what I will continue to say. The crop of people we have in leadership are not patriotic. If they were, the first line of thought is how to bring the refineries alive, that the refineries will begin to function. Okay, this money that they would like to take from the international community, let them bring it and repair the refineries and make the refineries to begin to function. They will not look in that direction. They won't look in that direction. And actually, as a matter of fact, those who have been in leadership, I have not seen anybody that is patriotic. But what will you gain? Where are you carrying this money to? You are in leadership. When the time of election comes, you will now come speak all the English that you would like to speak to make sure you cajole people into voting for you. When you get there, you forget about those who have voted for you. When we take a survey around the whole world, those who have made their countries giants, they go into self-sacrifice and they get patriotic. If we too want to toe the same line of making our country a giant, patriotism is a no bargaining issue.
All right. I mean, Doctor, when we heard that Dangote Refinery will be, begins operation, many Nigerians were happy. They were jubilating because for for many years we've been talking about fixing the refinery. We now had a refinery that was able to work. But it now looks that some Nigerians are having a different thought in terms of the fact that they have not gotten what they really expected from Dangote. Dangote, on the other end, is having issues about the pricing. He's saying that NNPC are those in charge of determining how much they're to sell. Do you feel that, there's a whole lot of politics surrounding that, and Dangote probably is being, probably not allowed to be independent?
If anybody tells you that Dangote coming on board in the Nigerian nationhood with his refinery will be independent, that person will be lying to you. Dangote is not independent from NNPC. And we have been made to understand that NNPC is a private liability company, but it is not independent from the federal government. I make bold to tell you that whatever Dangote is doing is remote controlled by the NNPC. And whatever NNPC is doing is remote controlled by the federal government. If Dangote does not want to parley with whatever NNPC is ready to tell him, he will experience cracks. He will not be able to move on. They will frustrate him. That is the nature of the Nigerian government. And NNPC, people that are there in the NNPC, if they don't go by what the federal government is ready to tell them, the federal government equally will frustrate the NNPC. That is where we are. Our problem in Nigeria is insincerity. When you say Dangote is a private liability company and it's independent, allow Dangote to be independent. For real. And if you say, okay, NNPC has been privatized and it is now a limited liability company, allow it to run as a limited liability company. You as a federal government, you have now said, okay, NNPC is a limited liability company, but you are remote controlling her activities. And Mike, let me tell you, if anybody tells you that Dangote is the one setting the price for his product, it's a lie. It's NNPC. And if anybody tells you that it is NNPC that is setting the price, it's a lie. It's the federal government. Look at the drama that just took place. The NNPC said that Dangote gave them a price of 898 naira per liter. And Dangote came and debunked it. The issue there is this. If Dangote debunked it, Dangote tell us what amount were you selling to the NNPC. Dangote has kept quiet about it. The amount that Dangote is selling to NNPC, if I am free to air my view, I will now say that probably is even by far less than 400 naira per liter.
I mean, is the NNPC to make profit out of all of this? Because, I mean, even if you're saying Dangote said we are selling for them at 895, or NNPC said we are buying from Dangote at 895 or thereabout, and I just probably feel, probably if you're buying at 895, that's what you ought to sell for Nigerians. But are they after profit making, if we know from these transactions? We can't really confirm. I mean, if it's 400, if it's 500, but if they're saying they're buying 895 from Dangote, isn't it supposed to be sold at the same market? Are they having to make profit out of the situation?
Let me tell you, the whole thing that is going on is confusing. The whole Nigerians, both the high, the low, the middle, they know really that the NNPC is not being honest. It's not being honest in the whole saga. Okay, you say Dangote is selling to you at 898. And you are subsidizing. They are telling us now that they are subsidizing. They are selling it out to independent petroleum marketers at 766 naira per liter. That was what I heard faintly. Before the idea of this product being dispensed to people in various parts of the country, some places at 922 naira per liter, and some areas above 1,000 naira. What the NNPC has subjected the whole Nigerians to is they are insincere. Come out and be transparent. Tell us the truth, and we will flow together.
All right, let's begin to, because there are many aspects to all of these issues, and now looking at how much of loan we're trying to incur from the World Bank. Some will say some of this money are shared to state government, and we will ask the state, what are you doing with some of these allocations from the federal government? We've seen some trial issues of some governors, including that of Kogi State and out of that, in a bid to underscore how much state can also develop their region in terms of the subnational. Because most oftentimes, those in the federal government will tell you that we are paying so much attention in the federal government. What is the state doing with the allocations they are having? And when you look at all of these recent loans by the federal government, in a way, it also going back to distribution to state. And then we begin to ask governors of what they are doing currently, to salvage the situation. Do you feel that they are just left with the federal government in all of this?
What I stand here to tell us, those who are in authority, let them try and be resourceful. Let them keep their minds together and try to be resourceful. Just like I told you earlier, we don't need to borrow money from anywhere. If we want to be honest with ourselves, the monies we have in the country is enough for us. There is high cost of governance. Those in government, they are taking too much. They are taking too much, creating more gaps between the rich and the poor. That is the problem we have. This fuel issue that we are talking about, who are those that are suffering? Is the poor and the middle and the middle the middle sect people. Those that are rich, they will not suffer it. They will not suffer it. So the idea of borrowing money even at the state level and even at the federal government level, I don't think it makes sense. It does not make sense.
Now, if we borrow, if they have already borrowed, because it looks that probably we can't really stop government from borrowing, but in a way, what are they distributing to states? What are the state governors doing with it? Because we can see some major landmark development at that subnational.
Anybody who would come up to become a governor is not coming up to develop the state, except on rare cases. Anybody who gets into the seat of government as a governor is coming there to loot. The much I know about the Nigerian setting. So if you are talking about development, it is zero. They come there to loot. That is why they make sure they do all things possible to be there. The idea of development is not there at all. It is not there at all. The more they borrow this money, the more they withdraw their responsibilities from the people. Hello? The more they borrow this money, the more they withdraw their responsibilities from the people. The more they service, the more they get this money, the less they service the correctional centers. The more they borrow this money, the less they equip our schools. The more they borrow this money, the less they equip the hospitals. The more they borrow this money, the more they borrow this money, the more the amount of money you pay to get hospital cars increase. So these monies you are borrowing, what are you doing with them? The problem we have in this country is insincerity.
What those to be blamed? Because we recruit in the recruitment processes. We've seen where governors and others seeking for elected positions who really have to compare on what they will do for people or give them defense to. So the people probably should hold those in offices and those in government responsible, which is a thing that really enhance democracy. But we've also seen cases where some persons have not been allowed to speak and criticize government at their respective fears. But in a way, do you feel that the people deserve better from what they are getting right now? One way or the other, the members of the National Assembly, the state governors, the House of Assemblies, and all of that. Do you feel that the Nigerian people really deserve better than what they are receiving now?
In answer to your question, who is to blame in the whole saga? If you have a tree on your farm and you want to bring the tree down, you want to kill the tree, you attack it from the root. You attack it from the root. If you cut the branches, it will bud again. But if you attack the root, you kill the tree from the root, it will get killed eventually. The corrupt practices that we are witnessing in the country, if we want to put a stop to it, we attack the root. And where is the root? The top, from the federal government, the president. Let the hands of the president be clean. If the hands of the president are clean, then he can bring every other person to order. But by the moment it is dirty from there, there's no how you can correct every other place. There's no how you can correct every other place.
Well, we probably may not continue to blame only government alone at the federal level and just at the state level. And the people are also responsible. We've seen how some Nigerians are taking advantage of the situation of the country right now. We've seen families are not abiding by the morals that probably should have a good society. So we're having a high level of moral decadence in society today, And at often time, yes, we know the responsibility of government, but at the other end, we feel that the people also have to start knowing the reality on ground and start making a difference at all levels. Because the way we are going, it's getting out of hand, and it's very disturbing.
To get a very strong country, there are several things that are involved. Number one, you should have a perfect orientation system. Yes, to orientate people, to tell people what is expected of them. That is number one. Number two, you should also put correctional measures in place in case people come up to go against the laid down rules that bind us together. Then you correct them. If there are a lot of decadence in the system, then you have to blame the federal system that it's not strong. Like the terrorists that we have all over the place. Whose fault? It's the federal government. The willpower of the federal government is not there. The potential is there, but the willpower is not there.
So the people are not happy in the federal government. They are level to probably information gathering. Some person will tell you that those people that are carrying out terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping are doing all of those things with people, in the community, at the villagers, at the level, having to, make some cooperation with some of these bandits or kidnappers, and is making the work difficult for the federal government. So we feel that people should also be held responsible. But, we cannot exhaust that concern. Let's get to the issues of trying to combat tracking some of this corruption. Your probably a brother, the former governor of Kogi said, I've been having back and forth with the FCC. We've seen instances where just yesterday he had to visit the premises. The FCC, on the other hand, said we are not in custody of former governor of the Kogi State. At the other end, Yahweh said I was at the AFCC. Do you feel that there are more to that issue? Because we have that on the papers this morning. That's why we are making this comment on that issue. What is your assessment about the matter?
What is happening, or what is playing out in the saga between Yahaya Bello and the EFCC is yet to be clear to people. Is yet to come out clear to people. But leave it with me. What happened yesterday, I was very happy with the EFCC chairman. I was very happy with the EFCC chairman. What is the meaning of Yahaya Bello saying that he went to submit himself willingly to the EFCC? When the EFCC wanted him, he refused. And he decided on his own, at the time of his will, to go to the EFCC. When your father, the federal government is our father. The EFCC is an agency of the federal government. It's talking for the federal government. When the EFCC is talking, it's our father that is talking to us. Your father calls you. He said, I don't have the time. I don't have your time to come yet. Then after 5 hours, when your father must have forgotten about that, or probably your father is planning on what to do, you stood up and say, okay, my father, I'm here now. How does that look? It's an insult on your father. The time the EFCC say, come, you refused. And the time you are relaxed, you came. You wanted to come the time you like, and not the time that the EFCC wants you to. It's an insult. It's an insult. And yesterday, the EFCC did something that impressed me. They said, we don't have your time. From there, I am beginning to notice that this EFCC chairman may be a savior in the anti-graft agency. He may be a savior. Because if he wanted, If he wanted an exchange of hands, even if it is 10 billion naira, he would have gotten it from them yesterday. Usman Ododo would have easily given him. Because it wouldn't do them anything. We are talking about 80 billion naira. They can easily sit out 10 billion and give to him. And say, no, I don't have your time. I don't know so much about the EFCC's chairman. But with that his behavior yesterday, he has given me an impression that we have hope.
Because some of these corruption cases is actually undermining development in the state. And just as I made mention of the other time, where if we can begin to track what states probably are doing with what they have, because when you look at the statistics of over 80 billion, just, I mean, at the level of the money, just money laundering, we can talk.
That is what we are talking about. That is what we are talking about. Corruption. Corruption is not borrowing money from outside. It's not borrowing money from outside. It's the one of Yahya Bello we are talking about. There were several other people before Yahya Bello. I won't mention them. There was a governor of his state who carted 180 billion. I think about 5 years ago. About 5 years ago, no, or 8 years ago.
What those instances?
When they wanted to talk about it, they say, okay, for us to leave you, change your party. He changed his party. And that thing went silently into the cooler. 108 billion naira. And you're going outside to go and borrow money. So this one of Yahya Bello, if God can use the EFCC chairman to call him to order to make him pay for his corrupt practices, we will have a headway.
Others would learn lesson from that.
Yes, other it will serve as a deterrence to several others. This is how we will be building our country. Because as this is happening, if this is not nailed to the board, other governors will still be watching. They say, after all, others that were before me, they did it, and this was how it went. So my own will also go like that. But in the EFCC, they stand to their words, and they really get these people. Then they will be afraid of stealing. And if they are afraid of stealing, there will be money in the system. If not, the more you borrow money into the system, if the thieves are there, we will be impoverished all the more.
All right, because I mean, day before yesterday, when the president earlier the week visited Borno State, you know, in terms of having on-spot assessment of, you know, the quite very sad disaster, he made mention of trying to launch an initiative, probably hazard relief initiative, to be able to see how issues like this can be well managed. That those who are saying we have NEMA, you know, National Emergency Management Agency, which is probably responsible for, you know, managing situations like this. Is it that is about underfunding of that agency? And now we're creating a move to create, I mean, another initiative. Where isn't it another room created for embezzlement? Because we've had different fantastic initiatives. We had humanitarian, you know, even a humanitarian ministry that was meant for Nigerians in terms of cushioning the effect of the hardship and all of that. But some of these ideas have not been materialized. Do you feel that NEMA should be empowered other than setting up another initiative to tackle some of the hazard?
Number one, I don't feel that NEMA has been underfunded. The problem of this country is not the funding so much to say. It's not the funding. For instance, this FCT that we are in, you see what Wike is doing. I don't know how people look at Wike. I don't know so much about Wike. I don't know what he did in Port Harcourt. I don't have his record. But with what he is doing in FCT, I fall in love with him. The resources he's using to develop the FCT, those resources, they have been going to the previous ministers.
Those I would tell you that is completing people's project. That some of this initiative, I mean, probably is not ease, and that it's just consolidating and completing them.
So that is how it is. They were not doing it, but Wike came and he started doing them. If you go through the length and breadth of the Federal Capital Territory, you will definitely appreciate the fact that there is a touching from Wike's end on the Federal Capital City. But there were FCT ministers that preceded him who did not do that, and nobody called them to question. And Wike, being here, even if he does not do it, when he will be living there, nobody calls him in to question. Whatever may be his reason for doing what he's doing, at least there is development. I am contented with that. So, will you now say that NEMA has not been funded? I need to be convinced. I need to be convinced. You know, how will you have an agency and you wouldn't fund that agency? And again, you are aware of the fact that some of these agencies, when they are supposed to carry out work duty, they will do it in such a way that it will call for their attention after a small bit of time. They don't use quality materials. Like the road from the town, Maraba, Nyanya, and the rest of them, is almost every year, if not every 2-3 months, that they go there to retouch the road. What is the reason? What is the reason? So it's not the issue of funding. That is that one. Number two, the Nigerian way of doing things, most especially, they would always want to react than to proact. Hello? They would rather want to react than to proact. It's every year. Flooding occurs every year. If you should be proactive, there are things that you are supposed to do on time to make sure.
NIMET has given those signals, and NIMET will tell you we had probably spotted some states that were prone to all of these attacks, and then they are, they are letting them, but they didn't pay up to
that's what we're talking about. The federal government was aware of it, and she did not do anything, only to come and launch a reactive initiative of creating hazard relief initiative. What is the meaning of that?
Don't you think it is better to address this?
What is the meaning of that?
Situation that many of them
Somebody is sick and they say he needs 50,000 naira for hospital bill. They say you are not giving. And when the person dies, it needs 2 million naira for the funeral, and you give. What have you done? What have you done? So Nigerians should learn to be proactive rather than reactive. The hazard relief material that we are talking about, if they create an initiative for that, they create a committee for that, those who are going there, you know what happens in Nigeria. About half of the money that is dumped there does not go for the real business. That is what we are facing in this country.
Is there no room for embezzlement?
Yes. So, my own take on that matter, let the federal government try to be proactive rather than reactive.
All right, as we begin to wrap up, Mr. President is still calling on Nigerians to exercise patience, and that some of these policies is taking will materialize for good. But it looks that the hardship is staring on the faces of Nigerians in terms of this economic policies and all of that. Do you feel that if they have to probably get this money again from the World Bank, where should they channel, the money to? Because we've seen infrastructures are quite decaying. Just as we said, we already have the funds, but it's not enough. People are embezzling them. But don't you think that the president should rather pay attention to some infrastructure in terms of production capacity of the country? Are we producing?
In our earlier editions of this discourse, I have told you that I don't believe the president when he says there will be light at the end of the tunnel with the handwritings on the wall. I don't believe him. I don't believe him. When he says we should be patient, and he has pushed the patience to the poor people alone while the rich are getting richer, I don't believe him. If he wanted us to go into sacrifice, it is all of us that have to go into the sacrifice. But we see instances whereby the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That message does not get down well with me. I don't believe him. As he is saying that there will be light at the end of the tunnel, that things will be better, I don't believe him. That is number one. Secondly, on this money that we would borrow from the international community, if it comes, where would we channel it to? If the leaders are honest, we channel it to the refineries, revitalizing our refinery system, because
But the people will tell you that we've invested so much in these refineries and the more refineries.
that is the only way to go, because fuel prices, they touch everywhere in human endeavor. That is the only way you will go that embezzlement will fizzle out. If you now come and give palliatives, the palliatives, you give rice, even the rice that we are talking about, and the various places that they are sharing rice. How many people does the rice get to? We are seeing people on the TV. There are a chunk of people out there that the rice does not get to. So if you borrow this money, if you seek for my advice, where should this money go to? Let them channel this money into revitalizing our refineries. Make our refineries to begin to work. If it begins to work, everybody, the rich, the poor, the old, the young, they will feel the impact.
All right, that's Head Volunteer Refugee Foundation and elder statesman in the country, Dr. Bartholomew Abo. Thanks so much for joining us on the morning show. We deeply appreciate it. A whole lot of concern as to how much the country can fare if we were to borrow again from the World Bank, how much that we borrowed previously, and how they can begin to invest at the right infrastructure in the country so as to be able to have aware of a repayment plan back for the federal government. The hardship is real, and many Nigerians are telling the Mr. President, calling on the federal government that it's also needful that they start paying attention to short-term plan in terms of cushioning the effect of the hardship in the face of the country. We have exhausted our time on the morning show. Of course, earlier, Ramson was here to take us on the ride, and of course, I'm here to really say that it's important that we continue to build the country of our dream, and Nigeria is ours, and we must also pray for Nigeria to succeed. My name is Idikat Michael, and that's the size of our morning program, Global Morning. Thanks so much for tuning in and staying with us on the program. See you again.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.